The Ryobi P320 is a cordless brad nailer. It's also equivalent to the DeWalt DC6018, which we're going to be doing a side-by-side comparison later in another video. But I'm going to pull this thing out and show you the basic controls and functions on it. Also understand this is a brad nailer only. It does not do double duty as a stapler. Showing this in action, we've got a little bit of gappage here. On the Ryobi one, when you press into safety, nothing really happens until you pull the trigger. When you pull the trigger, the little air compressor flywheel thing acts all at once. One of the things I've noticed with this thing is that it doesn't like to operate below freezing. You have to get it in where it's warm, warm it up, and then get it going. If it's below freezing, it pretty much refuses to function. And that's like, I'm not talking about 0 degrees, I'm talking about if it's 31 degrees, it's going to refuse to function. You have to have it where it's warm in order to function. As far as the strength and depth of nail driving, no problem at all. Last segment, I'm going to show the controls on a DeWalt 18 gauge Airstrike nailer. First of all, you would load the magazine just like any other nailer. It's a little thing here. We pull it down, we put the nails in. These little slots correspond to about where the nail head would go on a particular side. Not a precision fit, but you want the nails all the way forward when you do that. It's a little spring-loaded thing. There's no real call for lubrication on that, but a little toot to WD-40 probably will do more good than harm. It's an interesting contrast to the DeWalt ones, which have labeling, which very specifically say do not oil. We've got a little baling wire spring-loaded thing for popping this apart to lift it up to unjam it. Never had to unjam this thing. The 18 gauge nailer is usually extremely reliable. We've got a small selector switch on whether you want single shot or bump fire mode. If you go over to bump fire mode, basically you can hold the trigger down and nail by doing that. That's something that normally framers do, guys that are really on a speed basis with the type of work they're doing. With finish carpentry, you're not necessarily, you're going for precision, you're there to kind of cover up other people's mistakes. You're trying to make sure the wood gets flexed in place right. I would use this in single shot mode. You've got a nail depth setting right here, basically a spinning thing. If we spin it this way, like downward, we're going to go with deeper setting. We spin it upward, our nail heads may be a little bit higher out of the wood. That is separate from the power setting, which is right here. So let's say you want deep penetration in hardwood, you turn both of them up all the way. If you want shallow penetration in softwood, you would turn them both down all the way. If you want, let's say, deep penetration in softwood, then, and you don't want to beat the tool up, you're going to have the penetration turned up here, but the power turned down over here, and that most likely helps you prevent jams. You've got a little indicator light on here, you've got little bumper pads all over it, and then there's a little bit of a grip safety here you may need to look out for. Because you do have to have a grip on a tool in order for the trigger to work. Kind of an interesting little setup, but if you've got a problem with it refusing to work, make sure that you've also activated that grip safety. It uses the common 1+ batteries and has controls and overall thing very similar to their stapler, which I believe may have been recently discontinued. They're going to be coming out with a newer model that I strongly suspect will more closely resemble this. Battery compatibility with the rest of the 1+ tool system. 18 gauge nailers use standard nails. There isn't really any major difference between brands and models on those, as long as you get the straight line nails. And hopefully what Ryobi is going to do is come out with a 15 gauge nailer based on the Rigid, which is actually made by the same people. I would really like to see a good quality replacement for the DeWalt one, which for me has been a bit of a problem child with regards to jamming, and I understand the Rigid models better. And if we can come out with a rigid model that takes the Ryobi 1+ battery system, I think it's going to be a real winner.